And no shortage of commercials there. The question of whether to change the way the state collects income tax has prompted a really fierce battle between two parties. And WGN political reporter Tahman Bradley is here now with an in-depth look at what it all means. Tahman.
Ray and Micah, good evening. Unless you've been vacationing on Mars, you've definitely heard about the graduated tax or fair tax or tax hike. There are TV ads, radio commercials, and mailers. It's everywhere. Illinois voters are being asked to decide tax policy, and the choice they make could shape the direction of the state for decades. It's at the top of the ballot, the first thing you see. Before casting a vote for president or a member of Congress or state lawmaker, this question. The proposed amendment grants the state authority to impose higher income tax rates on higher income levels, which is how the federal government and a majority of other states do it. It continues, the amendment would remove the portion of the revenue article of the Illinois Constitution that is sometimes referred to as the flat tax that requires all taxes on income to be at the same rate, and so forth and so on. Chris Mooney teaches state politics.
If you got voted by mail ballot already, as many people have, you take a look at that thing, it's always confusing. What is that doing there? What does this mean? What is this language talking about?
On TV, radio, and the internet, a barrage of advertisements trying to help people decipher the amendment.
If approved, it would let the politicians immediately implement their plan to increase taxes.
These ads are lies, and they're being paid for by millionaires and billionaires.
We'll get back to the millions dished out by supporters and opponents in a moment. First, back to the question. It's about language in the Illinois Constitution mandating that any income tax be imposed at a single rate, or flat tax, for everyone, regardless of their income level. The question before voters is whether to replace Illinois' flat income tax with a graduated structure. A vote for the amendment ends the single rate system. For individuals, Illinois' flat tax is currently 4.95%. If you make $40,000 per year, you're taxed 4.95%. If you make $125,000 a year, you're taxed 4.95%. If you earn $1 million a year, you're taxed 4.95%. Everyone pays the same rate. It's how Illinois has done it since 1969. But with the state facing a massive bill backlog, unfunded pension liabilities, and a dismal credit rating, Governor Pritzker wants to collect more revenue.
They were looking for a place to find some more money, and where do you, it's like Willie Sutton said, where, you go where the money is, and that's where the rich people are.
Pritzker calls it the fair tax, and it's his signature agenda item. Not long after he was sworn in, Governor Pritzker urged, and the Democratic-controlled legislature approved, placing the graduated tax question before voters.
The current tax system is simply unsustainable.
Lawmakers also signed off on the new graduated tax rates, and here they are. For a single filer, the first $10,000 of income is taxed at 4.75%. Then from $10,000 to $100,000 at 4.9%. So in other words, people who make less than six figures will see a small tax cut. Then earners making $100,000 and $1 to $250,000 pay 4.95%. That rate remains the same. Above $250,000, the rate jumps. 250 to 350 will pay 7.75%. 350 to 750, 7.85%. And an individual earning over $750,000 a year will pay 7.99%. Let's look at married couples. Just like individuals, taxes go down slightly for joint filers earning $100,000 or less. Taxes remain at the current level for people between $100,000 to $250,000, but between $250,000 to $500,000, the rate jumps to 7.75%. From $500,000 to $1 million, 7.85%, and over $1 million, 7.99%. Illinois corporations currently pay 7%. The rate would tick up to 7.99%. That's in addition to the 2.5% personal property replacement tax corporations dole out. If the amendment passes, the new rates would take effect on January 1st. People who've figured this out are speaking out. Kristen Vaughn owns and operates several Irish pubs in the city and suburbs, including Corcoran's. She's voting no on the amendment.
When the graduating tax, if it comes in, there's not enough of them to go after that they won't come after me.
Vaughn says she's not necessarily opposed to taxing the wealthier more, but due to COVID-19, her business is down 50%, and she's had to lay off dozens.
Not a good time to be raising taxes on anybody.
Supporters say, pandemic or not, the revenue is needed because the current income tax system isn't fair. They also highlight the tax cut under the approved rates. Quentin Folks runs Vote Yes for Fairness.
The taxation that we have in the state of Illinois is simply regressive, and it's punishing lower and middle income Illinoisans, and it's time that we do something to lift that burden off of them.
Republican Leslie Munger is a former Illinois comptroller. In that role, she paid the state's bills, at least the ones she had enough money to cover. Even though Munger is keenly aware of Illinois' fiscal woes, she opposes the amendment.
These tax rates are like introductory teaser rates we see from our local cable company. They look like you're not going to get taxed until they rope you in and you vote for it.
This is one of the main arguments opponents make, that a graduated tax system will open the door to Springfield raising taxes at will.
Why didn't the supporters of this put the rates in the amendment?
It's simple because the rates are determined by the General Assembly as they are now. They can decide to go in and change those rates whenever they decide under a flat tax or under a fair tax. And so the rate simply wasn't what is in front of voters on November 3rd.
The problem they have, and the advantage that the opponents of this have, is that this requires trust. Trust is in short supply for state of Illinois government.
Opponents are also warning seniors. They say the amendment could lead to a tax on retirement income, which is currently banned by state law.
It's a lie. The fair tax has nothing to do with taxing retirement income.
The state would have to pass a new law authorizing a tax on retirement income. For now, it's just speculation. Back to the campaign for and against the amendment. It's a heavyweight bout, billionaire versus billionaire. Governor Pritzker is bankrolling Quentin Folks' committee. He dropped $55 million into it. On the other side, Ken Griffin, long known as Illinois' richest man. The hedge fund manager and investor has written $46 million in checks to the coalition to stop the proposed tax hike amendment.
Basically, it's 99% or more of the funding is coming just from these two extremely wealthy white men who are controlling the conversation about this issue.
Griffin penned an op-ed in the Chicago Tribune warning that the graduated income tax could slow the state's economic growth. Griffin did not mention that a graduated tax could cost him millions.
You and Ken Griffin, the state's richest man, pay the same income tax rate. How does that make you feel?
Cheated.
Patricia Evans is a home health care worker making minimum wage.
And even in COVID, you still got to do this important work.
They still got to eat. The houses still need to be cleaned.
Evans says she's voting yes on the amendment because she wants the state to fund more social services. And she says wealthy corporations are only pretending to care about the graduated tax's impact on low-wage workers.
When someone very, very wealthy is saying they want to do something to save you, what for them is a pittance amount of money, you need to ask yourself, why? Why are they spending millions of dollars so that I can save a couple $100? What's in it for them?
The estimated $3.4 billion in annual revenue that the graduated tax would generate won't solve the state's problems. Governor Pritzker has said he would use $200 million per year to pay down pension debt, but that's just a drop in the bucket for a state north of $130 billion in pension liabilities. And there's one last thing to consider. Right before the state started mailing ballots to voters, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton sounded the alarm, warning if the graduated tax structure does not pass, residents could see a tax hike of 20%. That's everybody. Patricia Evans, the elder care worker, Kristen Vaughn, the business owner, and Ken Griffin, the billionaire. Should they pay the same rate? It's up to you. The ballot question requires 60% of the votes on the measure itself, or a simple majority of all those voting in the election. Micah and Ray.
Very informative.